happy to be here. I'm always happy to, join sessions like this to share knowledge. And I'm even more excited because the topic for today is one that I'm very, very passionate about. I've been a I've been I've seen the value of stakeholder management firsthand. I've had both the negative and the positive. I've seen the positive side, I've seen the negative side. So I know how important it can be. And interestingly, myself, Idiri, Sheon, and Marita used to be colleagues at a point, right? In a wonderful organization we all worked in. And a number of things I learned about stakeholder management actually started there. And I'll be sharing a number of them with you. So just to give some context, my first experience around stakeholder management was within the first year of starting my career. Don't worry, I'll share the story shortly. But I'll say that, in my current role, I've actually learned so much about stakeholder management. And the reason for that is because I've had to work with several stakeholders. Just last year, my role was actually expanded. And at some point, when I did the count, I was managing almost 20 people, when I did the count. I know it sounds unbelievable. Sometimes I look back and, I almost can't believe it, but I had to feel kind of like a void that was created at some point. So my role had to be expanded, so I had to manage so many people. And yeah, it could have been, it was a bit tiring, but I look back and I realized that I learned so much about stakeholder management because the interesting thing is the more people you work with, the more diverse set of people you work with, you find out that you typically have to stretch and you typically have to improve your knowledge about how to manage stakeholders. Stakeholders are always different. Each person is different. Each person has, what they're looking out for. And you want to be able to adapt to that. So back to my story, first year, when I started my career, within the first year of starting my career, I think I was just a little over 1 year starting my career. I remember that there was this international training that the team was meant to go for. We're about 25 to 30 in that team. Let me just say 30. And I remember that, out of the 30 of us, 25 people were drafted to go for that international training. And then there were just about 5 of us. So me and 5 other people were dropped, and I kept wondering, what's going on? Imagine 25 other people rejoicing and saying, oh, I'm going to, sort out my visa. I'm going to do this. Oh, we're traveling to so place. And then that's 25 people in the unit. And then you are one of the 5 people who's just wondering, why did they drop me? What is going on? It was a very devastating experience. I must mention. And I remember being so sad. And then at some point, because it was an open door type of organization. Again, it was an international organization. I won't mention any names, but it was an international organization. So you could, ask questions and just, find out things. So I went to meet the overall boss, just curious, that please, I'm just curious. So I didn't make the cut. Please, what's going on? And then she tells me, oh, they use performance. And I'm surprised. I'm like, but if you check the performance management system, I'm not doing too badly. I mean, I'm actually even doing well. I've had like good appraisals, because I had worked on like three or four projects then. 3 of the projects were good, 1 project wasn't so good. So I was just wondering, what's going on now? So she then says, oh, it was performance. I was like, but the performance management system said, oh, no, 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 they didn't use that. Okay, so what did you use? And, she spoke to two, she spoke to 2 of the managers in the team. 2 of the managers in the team, okay. And then she spoke to one of them, and the feedback she got, she didn't even say she spoke to one, the feedback she got was that I wasn't performing well. Now, that whole story didn't make sense to me but I couldn't fight much because, like I said, I had worked on like 4 projects. It was only one project that was not good. Coincidentally, that one project was done with one of the people that she spoke to, which counted against me. So what it meant was the other 3 projects that I had worked on that were good didn't even count, sadly. So I was even more confused because this was me 1 year into starting my career. And then I'm seeing something that looks like politics. And I'm asking myself, but I'm working in an international organization. What's going on? So I went to meet, obviously I didn't go and meet, she spoke to 2 senior people. So I didn't go and meet the person that I knew I didn't work well with. I went to meet the other person. And the interesting thing about it is the person I didn't even work well with, she was just a difficult person at the time. So it wasn't even like I didn't pull my weight per se. She was just difficult. Everybody knew she was a difficult person. So I went to meet the other person and she said something that, I want to say to all of us on this call. I said, this is what has happened, this is what has happened, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, Ayo, you need to know your stakeholders. And for me, that thing kept ringing in my head all through that day. You need to know your stakeholders. And I'm going to say the same thing to everybody on this call. You need to know your stakeholders. The truth about it is, yes, we're data professionals. Now AI is the thing that is buzzing. AI professionals or what have you, maybe even software developers might be on the call. And we can be very technical, we want to do the code, we want to do all the, play with all the fancy new tools out there. We just want to bury our heads in our laptops, right? Forgetting that there's the softer side of things, right? And forgetting that at the end of the day, if you don't manage your stakeholders, you work so hard, but you see so little, right? And that's why this conversation is very, very, very important, right? Now, the interesting thing about that story is that over the next 12 months, within a 12-month period after that incident, I learned a lot and I started to do things around stakeholder management. So I improved on my stakeholder management. I also added a lot of prayers, I won't even lie, because the whole thing was just confusing. And the interesting thing about that story is, I got a promotion ahead of schedule. Not only did I get a promotion ahead of schedule, I got promoted ahead of a number of people that actually went for that training, right? And a lot of it was because I had now learned a little about stakeholder management and I employed some of that. And I'll be talking to you about, some things I've just learned over time. Another story I'll just like to share because I think, just sharing stories helps a lot. Last year, like I said, my role got expanded. And I remember I joined the team, and on that team, I noticed something. I noticed there were 2 guys. One was very, very technical, solid, The other one was technical, but had, more of the soft skills, knew how to walk his way, and all that, knew how to manage stakeholders. And I noticed something. I noticed that whenever people were going to talk about, needing someone to do something, they always went with the other guy that had stronger soft skills. You know why? Because they thought he was stronger technically. For whatever reason, I don't know if it was that he just could communicate well or he could, everybody just felt this guy is the better guy. Because I was, technical person too, I was able to weigh both of them. And I felt that this other one is actually more technical, has more technical depth and all that. And well, hey, that other guy just knew how to manage stakeholders and it was working well for him. So again, just going to show the importance and why this is very crucial. Let me move from the stories and go into the meat of this, because if you leave me, I can keep telling stories till the end of today. So we have 45 minutes. All right. So very quickly, I've made the slides very simple. It starts with who are your stakeholders, then what are your stakeholders, then what do you need? Sorry, what do they want? And then what do you need to do? So who are your stakeholders? So there's this stakeholder priority map, quite popular. If you can see my screen, just a second, let me minimize this. Okay. So now this stakeholder map, very, very simple. So on the y-axis, you have influence. On the x-axis, you have interest. and you have the high-low, right? And what this is telling you is that if your stakeholder has a low interest and low influence, they're low priority to you. If they have a high influence but low stake, you need to handle them with care. Very important, right? If they have a low influence but high stake, you need to help. They need help to participate. So you just need to, yeah, I mean, carry them along, but don't spend too much time there. And then if they are high interest, high influence, they are top your priority. Now, the reason why you need this is because in every organization, you have so many people, and you need to be able to put people in their place as quickly as possible. So when you join an organization, one of the things you need to quickly note is you need to be able to draw out this map. Now, you can decide to draw it on paper, you can decide to draw it in your head. It really doesn't matter. But you need a map like this. And someone might ask, how do I know? So identifying someone that has high interest in your project or low interest in your project, that's simple. That's very easy, right? Because most times as you're starting a project, you already know the people you're building the project for. You already know the people that are interested. That's very easy. What is harder is knowing people who have influence in an organization. And I like to say that there are different ways you can go about this. People who have influence in an organization are usually out there. They are visible, right? So, and a key thing about stakeholder management is never fall for thinking that um, stakeholder power or influence is based on an organizational structure. You'll be shocked. I've been in organizations where people on my level had more influence than even people I was reporting to. I've seen such in certain organizations, right? So so what you want to do is, yes, you can get the organogram, get a sense of, okay, the MD is here, this person is here, but don't stop at that, because you'll be shocked as to who has influence and who doesn't, right? So what you want to do is when you go for meetings, pay a lot of attention. There are some people that are very vocal. And as they are vocal, you find out that senior people are listening to them. Sometimes they might not be senior people themselves. Sometimes they might be senior people. But you just find out that everybody's listening to this person. That is a stakeholder with that influence. Some other times is that there's just this critical project in the organization, and this person is the person they've just put in charge of it. Those types of people are people with high influence, right? So people that in meetings, everybody's just listening to them, or everybody just wants to hear their view. Oh, what do you think? What do you think? Everybody just wants to hear their view, right? Or they're on like very, very critical projects. Another thing you can do is ask your boss or people that have been in the organization for long. I remember when I was starting my current role, there was someone who we had worked together in my previous organization. And I remember just asking him, who are the people I should keep an eye for? And he told me, these are the people you should keep an eye for. And I started to do that. So you want to, I don't know if we could mute ourselves. So you want to be able to identify all your stakeholders, right? And then when you identify them, you then need to manage them, right? So I think I've helped out with who are your stakeholders. So if I take it back to that story I shared, I had at least 4 or 5 people that I was reporting to then that were senior people that I had worked with on projects. But hey, only 2 of them were important. Guess why those 2 were important? Those were the 2 that the overall boss trusted. And the interesting thing about it is everybody knew. Everybody just knew that these are the 2 people, but then, I mean, I was new in the system. What did I even know about stakeholder management? Hey, I just started my career. I was 1 year in. Do you understand? So I didn't take it seriously, but everybody just knew that, oh, this overall boss likes these 2 people. She listens to them. Obviously I learned the hard way and I corrected that, right? So those are who your stakeholders are. Don't fall for, I'm going to check the organogram. Based on the organogram, it is going to tell me who is influential. Don't fall for that. I've given you other ways to be able to know. Yes, the organogram helps, can be an indicator, but there are other ways you should know. Now, the second thing is, what do they want? So what do your stakeholders want? Now, there's some trainings and some courses that you take, and those courses will change your life forever. right? There was a course I took in PwC, and I need to give it up to PwC, by the way. I took this course in 2016, 2017, and hey, guess what? I've never forgotten. That's 7, 8 years ago. And this framework has been my guide. And I mean it literally. It has been my guide, right? So what have I done with it? So let me explain the framework. The framework is called the SDI, Strength Development Inventory Framework. It's not so popular. I mean, it's not so popular, but very, 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 in certain circles it is, but very potent. And what it talks about is it basically gives you an idea of how people are wired. Let me just put it in that way. So how they behave, how they are motivated, how they, how they go about conflict management. So you have people that are red, that's to this top right. You have people that are green, the bottom. You have people that are blue, to the left, right? And the red people, they focus more on performance. The green people more on process and analyzing things. The blue people, they focus more on people. They're people-oriented people. Now, this thing is very, very important because it will help you know how to engage people. It will help you know how to engage people. And it helps you know how to understand your stakeholders. Let me give you an example. A person that is red is someone who always wants to be in control, right? Now, the other thing to mention before I start with that is you also need to know where to place yourself, because the way this thing works is that your own style is likely the style you use for all your stakeholders if you are not careful. So if you are a green person, green people like analysis, they like crunching the numbers, reaching a logical conclusion and all that. So if you're a green person, it's likely that that's what you want to do with all your stakeholders. And guess what? It's a recipe for disaster. You get. I don't know if we've heard this concept about love languages in relationships. I don't know if you've heard about it, but similar where love language, gifts, quality time, um, words of affirmation and all that. And, the psychologist that came up with it said, the person who likes to give gifts, who likes to receive gifts, will most likely always want to give gifts. And that's also a recipe for disaster because the other person in the relationship might not really like gifts. They might like something else. So it's the same concept here. You might be the person who always wants to, and we're data people here. A lot of times you want to break down the numbers, reach a logical conclusion. But hey, the guy who's red sometimes doesn't care about that. He wants you to go straight to the facts, give him the facts, and that is it. He doesn't want you to start breaking down the slides and all that. He's asking you a question, he expects an answer immediately. So he's saying, should we go with this business or should we not? He doesn't want to hear, oh, our sales in so place was 50% of our sales last year. It is now 30% of the sales. He doesn't want to hear any of that. He wants a yes or no. The guy who is green, is asking you the same question. He doesn't want a yes or no. He wants you to now break it down. The guy who is blue, I mean, this is just a more people-oriented person. I'll focus more on the green and the reds because I've worked extensively and a lot of people fall there with bosses in those areas. Right. So you want the person who is red is a goal-getter, straight to the point. They're usually very brash. So these are your type of bosses, and I'm sure a lot of us have started thinking of certain bosses that fall in this category. They want to be in charge, so they're the ones who want to be able to take the shine. They don't want you going behind them to do anything, in the sense that, for example, they don't want you. I've had bosses who they don't mind you going to meet their own bosses to have just conversations and to just maybe do presentations and all. But some other bosses don't like that. A lot of reds fall in that category. Again, some people are a mix of, red, blue, blue, green, red, green, and all that. You have those mixes and all that. But I'm just talking strictly about each box. So with the red type of person, you need to adapt your style, right? You need to adapt your style. The green person, you also need to adapt your style. When I'm talking to someone who is green, I go with all my facts. I do the analysis and I go and show the person. When I'm talking to someone who is red, I do less analysis and I come up with what I think a reasonable conclusion is. Sometimes I'm talking to someone who is red. I know that there's that desire to always be in charge. So again, I choose my battles with red people. I choose my battles. I win some, I lose some intentionally, right? Because I know that they always want to have some sense of control, right? So you find out that you have different type of stakeholders. You want to place yourself somewhere. A lot of times I can be green, right? So I always catch myself and I ask myself, what is this person, right? There are times when I have, so, and let me give you an example. There's a red boss that, I have. There's someone, again, I report to many people. So, but just one of them is red. Whenever I need to go to him for something, you know, I try not to, what I try to do is I try to think through, sorry, sorry about that. Okay. I try to think through my position, and I always try to go in not being forceful about my position. So what I always try to do is I try to steer the conversation in such a way that I can get him to reach that same conclusion that I've reached. Right. I'm usually not in a rush. I just, think through it, think through everything, and I try to, steer the conversation in that direction such that at the end of the day, he's the one that reaches that conclusion and then we're on the same page. You get, right? Um, you have those type of things, right? So you want to be able to manage red people very well. And just thinking about an example that happened recently, this was outside of work, it was on a project. Ediri, when she was reading my profile, talked about how I had worked on a project called Repo Bots that the Minister of Communication had talked about, or had recognized rather. So on that project, because I was leading the team, I remember that, what people were reporting to, again, I'll classify him as a red. He was someone who just wanted results. Don't come to me with all the issues. Just this bot, it has to go out. I want to see it. I want it. Let it be ready. We've told everybody in the world about it. It cannot fail, and all that. So I remember when we were building it, there was an issue we kept having, and it was the fact that the thing was very slow. And this was something that, was going to be published and had the potential of reaching at least 200,000, 300,000 people. And this was us in the team individually trying the thing, and the thing was taking 2 minutes. Now, each time we went to him that we need to change the approach. No, 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 no. Go and use it like that. No, we already have a story around it this way. You cannot change the approach. This. And I remember everybody in the team was panicking. Even me, I was concerned. Each time we tried to bring it up stylishly, even me, I was concerned. But I remember there was one day, this was the night before the deadline. I just thought about it that let him see it himself. Like instead of us saying this thing is taking 2 minutes, he's not able to visualize it, right? Again, sometimes Reds can just be very, like I said, they're go-getters, they can be brash and all that. Sometimes they're not really thinking about it the way you are seeing it. They just want the results. So I said, you know what, let's call him, right? Let him be here. Let him test it here and now. So we got him, and then we got him to test it. It was at the point he was testing it. He said, still is taking time. Dad, are you serious? And you guys have tried everything. I said, yes, we've tried everything. And it was at that point he then said, you know what? Just try what you want to try. At the end of the day, what I want is results. Just try whatever you need to try to get this thing from 2 minutes to under 5 seconds. And eventually that was how we got the go ahead. Right. So the point I'm trying to make is you need to understand. Imagine if we were going with all the I mean, we could have gone with a lot of analysis, a lot of numbers. Oh, if you try it from this location, you try it from that location, if you try it at this time, he won't have listened. All we needed was just a simple test, something practical that he could see, and that helped. You understand? There are times when I'm reporting to a green boss, I ensure that I dot the, how do they say, dot the I's, cross the T's. Why? Because I know a green boss is going to be interested in the nitty-gritty and the numbers. So I go in, thinking through everything, right? And laying down my position. All right. So I've talked about reds, I've talked about greens, right? And again, blue are more people oriented and all that. They're usually easy to manage, to be honest. I think a lot of times where you have the issues is with the reds and the greens, right? And like I said, people don't necessarily fall in just one bucket. People fall in, a combination of buckets, right? So please keep this because it will help you a lot. And you can go back and do some, and some research around this, right? It's helpful. And like I said, it's helped me. Now, what you need to do. So we've talked about who are your stakeholders. I've helped you practically to know who stakeholders are. I've told you about what they want, right? From their motivations, conflict management standpoint, right? Um, and just to mention, okay, maybe I shouldn't. Let me move on. Uh, I was about to say the Adiri and Marita and Shil, they probably know someone who we once worked with that was a red boss, right? And they would understand, some of these things too that I'm talking about. And I'm sure everybody, if you really think about it, I'm sure there's no how you'd have met or worked with a red before. Anyways, so at least now you have an idea of how to manage them. All right, so what you need to do, I think one of the first things you need to do, understand your own style and make sure you adapt your style. Talked about that previous page. Now, a couple of other practical things you can do, and I'll just talk about it very quickly. I'll talk about the halo effect, but before I talk about the halo effects, managing perception is so important. You see, your career can be, you can make or mar your career just by perception. Remember the other story I gave of two guys. One had perfected the art of managing perception. The other one didn't, even though it was technically better. Now, you want to be able to manage perception. And that's where the halo effect comes. You see, halo effect, again, a lot of what I'm teaching you is some people will say, oh, yeah, it's just manipulation, it's just this. Not necessarily. You see, when people say office politics, people say manage perception, work on visibility, the truth about it is you are working with human systems. As long as it's a human system, it will always be like that. See, if you like, work with the most advanced international firm or company in the world, it is still like this. It might be a bit better, but hey, it's a human system. Humans will have biases, right? Humans will want to build relationships and alliances. So it's just what it is. So you can't run away from it. So because some people say, oh, it's politics, oh, it's this, I don't do that. Oh, no, no, I just do my work. No, it's a human system. You need to manage your stakeholders. You need to. It's very important. All right. So managing perception, very important. You want to manage perception, right? And halo effect is a very good thing. So how does halo effect work? It's actually a bias, you know. And the way the bias works is that, and you can use it to your advantage. The way the bias works is that a lot of times, this whole thing of what the way you dress is the way you be addressed. Subconsciously, it's just the way the world works, right? It's just the way the world works. Someone is, dressed in a suit or dressed in, very, very neat, nice native, right? Everybody else looks at that person in a particular sense than the guy who's just shabbily dressed. It's just what it is. That's the halo effect. And you know what people then expect is that that person, right, that is well dressed, they just expect that, they start to take that well-dressed thing and they start to transfer it to other things. The human mind just starts to make assumptions that, oh, this person is going to be good at work. Oh, this person can speak well. Oh, this person is going to be a good team leader. Oh, this person is this, right? So you want to use the halo effect to your advantage in the sense that dress well. Those things matter. That's one. Two, whenever you are given a project, right, and you're working with a stakeholder for the first time, make sure you are active, make sure you put in your best, make sure you are contributing. Those things are important because what then happens is that the halo effect then works in your favor, right? Because it's the law of first impressions. People start to look at you in that particular way of, oh, this guy is actually good. It's the same way that, I told you I worked with someone and we didn't work too well. And the sad thing was after that time, she didn't even want to work with me. Luckily, we eventually worked together. And I mean, I was able to correct that. But to correct that, it took me a lot I had to do a whole lot more just to correct that notion eventually. But the point I'm trying to make is with the halo effect, you want to, present yourself in the best possible manner, right? By the way you dress, by the way um, um, and this is very tied to visibility, by the way, right? So visibility in the sense that whenever they are like critical meetings, make sure you are contributing, right? If there's a critical meeting that has everybody in the organization, that is the kind of meeting that you want to say something and don't just say anything. Don't say something that is ridiculous. Say something that matters, right? You can ask a question. You don't just say something, right? Those meetings are important, right? Someone was saying that if you work in a colleague of mine was just saying in passing that, if you're in middle management or you've gotten to a particular level and the overall boss in the organization, that except you work in a bank and that the overall boss in your organization doesn't know you, that's not a good thing. You know, you then ended it to say, oh, okay, even if it's not the overall boss, like some senior people in the organization, if they don't know you, that's a problem. And it's true, it's a problem, right? So you want visibility. So, and the way visibility happens is, through certain projects you get on. So sometimes you have a critical project in the office. Those are the type of projects you want to be a part of because that gives you exposure to stakeholders, right? And on that project, create a good impression, create a good first impression, right? Halo effect is actually first impression lasts longest. That's actually the halo effect in simple terms. It's just big grammar. We now used to call it halo effect, but you get. So create lasting first impressions. You go for critical meetings, put your best foot forward. There's a major project, overwork yourself in that project, put your best foot forward. Make sure you're doing everything you can. One of the other ways of creating visibility is, giving updates, sharing the challenges, and oh, this is what we've done, this is what we've done. You want to create that visibility for yourself, right? That's a very critical way to manage stakeholders and to manage perception. Another way of managing perception is if your work is hybrid, show up in the office. My work, I don't have to, my team comes to the office once a month. But guess what? I come to the office once every week. And not just that, if there's a critical meeting, maybe town hall or anything, you will see me physically there. So why? Because you see, because it's just the way the mind works. Out of sight is out of mind. For all you care, your stakeholders will just feel you're not working. Whereas if you show up in the office, the interesting thing about it is that some people will show up in the office and they're not doing anything, they're only gisting. And stakeholders think they're working. Some other people stay at home, they're working from morning to night, and stakeholders think they're not working. It's just the way the mind works. So what do you do? Show up from time to time. If it's that once a week, show up. And when you show up the once a week, greet people, show up, oh, good afternoon, just greet people, let people know you're there, right? That's another way to create visibility and to manage perception. You'll be shocked. You'll be very shocked. I've had people say, maybe because I didn't show up for 2-3 weeks. Where have you even been? Are you sure you've been working like this? Again, it depends on the organization you're in. But what I found is that a lot of times, if it's like a hybrid culture, a lot of times it helps. Be at the critical meetings, show up physically, right? At your critical meetings, show up from time to time in the office. The other thing that is not here that I need to, okay, it's actually in this other slide. Okay, then communication. I'll talk about communication last because it's important. I'll talk about that last. So gaining trust. Again, I think I've touched on gaining trust in a sense. So, make sure your integrity is intact. I remember there was a particular executive I was talking to, and it was just telling me that there was a particular guy that he just doesn't trust. And when I asked him what happened, he said, oh, that the first day he met that person, he asked him a question and that person lied. And then he later found out that person lied. And it's just interesting how, again, still the halo effect, play. It's just interesting how that person lost trust. So you want to be able to gain trust. Make sure your integrity is intact. Make sure you put in your best into your projects. Put in everything, gain trust. You see, once you gain trust, you can start to set boundaries. Let me give you an example. I remember, when I first joined a particular organization, there was someone that they said was difficult. Even my boss said, this person is difficult. I said, okay, no problem. I remember the first meeting with this person. When I said, oh, we're planning to build this, we'll build this churn model, we'll build this, that. And then she was like, oh, how long will it take? I said 12 weeks. She screamed. How can you say 12 weeks? This, da, 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 da. That's why she doesn't like, this type of projects and working with this team. This, da, 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 da. The, the meeting scattered. And I kept wondering, did I say something wrong? The good thing is, when I shared that 12 weeks, it was me under promising and how do they say it? I wanted to under promise but over deliver. I knew that we were going to finish it in less than 12 weeks. So within 6 weeks, so I pushed everybody in the team. We must finish this thing. Within 6 weeks, we finished it. We now went to show, and we did it very well. We now went to show. She was impressed, very impressed. Then there was one day, she now reached out to me that there's one meeting she wants me to join. There's one very important meeting that I should just join. Guess what? As I joined that meeting, I made sure that I was giving suggestions, recommendations, things that made sense. Eventually, it was meant to be a wonderful. It was a recurring meeting, but she just brought me in. Let's see what you can. But guess what? They invited me to all the subsequent. Eventually, it was my team that took over that project because we had built trust. And I remember doing that project, there was some challenge they were having. Oh, they want to do this, do this. The IT team is not available. Is there something we can do? I said, yes, there's something we can do. I sat down with my guys, what can we do? And then we came up with a solution. And that solution was what then made that project a success. So since that time, I was able to build trust. Whenever she needed anything, I became the go-to person. I remember how it all started. The meeting ended in a very bad way. This is someone that even the people I was reporting to didn't know how to manage. I don't know if that makes sense. So I was able to gain, and that's how you gain trust, right? Now, in your earlier days, put in your very best. The early days are in the days you start putting boundaries. Oh, I don't work during weekend. I don't do this. Those are not the days to put boundaries. It's a bad time to put boundaries. When you start to put boundaries is when you gain trust. Gain trust, do everything, then you can now start to put boundaries. Oh, during the weekend, I do this. But the good thing is they already know what you're capable of. They already have built trust. That's when you can now start putting the boundaries to say, oh, and all that. I hope we get that. Then building relationships, this is also very important. You see, a lot of times, like I said, it's a human system. It's a human system. And you want to be able to build relationships with people. Now, and building relationships is not necessarily from a selfish standpoint of, if I build a relationship with this person, they'll be able to speak up for me. Not necessarily. Building relationships is just about building relationships. It should even start with that first. Now, the good thing about building relationships is that, eventually is that obviously some of these people in closed doors where you are not there, they'll be able to speak on your behalf, right? The good thing about being in relationships is people will be able to make exceptions for you, right? In cases even where you mess up, they would be, because they know you, they're able to say, no, I won't do that. No, there's a reason why I did that. Where there's no relationship, there's no filter like that. That filter doesn't exist. But where there's a relationship, that filter would always exist. Where people are like, no. There's a reason. Let's hear what he has to say. You understand? So you want to build relationships. And how do you build relationships? Again, how to build relationships will tie back to people's style, right? To people's style. But beyond the style, it's really about finding common ground. And I'll give you two examples. I remember there was someone I read. Someone had hinted me that this was a critical stakeholder that I needed to manage. I didn't know, and there was a decision I needed to make, and she was going to be the one that was going to have to approve that decision. Now, the position I had taken was opposite to the position she had taken, and she's a red. So I remember, someone just telling me, you need to manage this person, go and meet her, manage her properly. You need to really manage. And I just walked to the office, and we got talking. I explained my position, she explained her position. When I saw the direction everything was going, I knew that I needed to choose my battle. So I said, you know what? I mean, I just left it and just, mentioned that, oh, her position was fine. I was fine with it. I'll work with it. And then one of the things I didn't want to do was just leave that office because, again, I knew this was a critical stakeholder. It'd be good to just build a relationship with this person, right? It's always good to build relationships with people. So on her table, I just saw a book, Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Interestingly, it was a book I read like a month before that. I just recently read it. I was, this book, very interesting, very good. Have you read it? Say, oh yes, you're still reading it. I said, nice, nice. I mean, I struggle, though. I struggle, and we just got talking. From that, we talked about books. We talked about Gen Z, talked about millennial. She told me about her cousins, talked about family, talked about exercise, talked about all sorts of things. And today, we talk. Sometimes if I'm in the office, she's in the office, I just go, just sit, just talk. Just talk about things. Right. So what was the common ground? The common ground was the book. I'll start wrapping up now because I think my time is almost up. Like I said, if you leave me here, I can be talking till 10 p.m. So I just had that was the common ground, right? Then I remember, someone else, a very senior person too, I just visited, I went for something to ask for something. And I saw him watching TV, and what I saw on the TV was tennis. I was like, you watch tennis? Oh, yes, yes. You play tennis? Oh, yes, he plays. I said, I used to play. Where do you play? Blah, blah, blah. Long and short, I found out there was a tennis club. I eventually even joined that tennis club because I was actually also looking for a tennis club myself, And that was how I started building a relationship. Sometimes the time just go to the office, just talk. That and the interesting thing about building a relationship, I tell people that once a week that I go to the office, people think I'm working. Most times when I go to the office like that once a week, I spend 70% of the time going from office to office, just talking, just finding out about how they're doing or what's happening, just talking. And sometimes it's not even just with senior people. Sometimes it's my peers. Sometimes it's junior, just building relationships. But obviously, you also want to build relationships with your stakeholders. And don't say it is not my person. Trust me, I used to be the last person to build relationship. I'm telling you, I used to be to myself. The last thing I used to want to do was build. But today, you can work on yourself. Today, when I go to the office, something I just love to do. Just go from place to place to place. Sometimes people will see me, I just drop my laptop. And after that, the next time they are seeing me is in the afternoon. I'm coming to take my laptop and I'm going. I've really not done much that day. In fact, I was telling my boss that because I once I'm in the office like that, I miss a lot of meetings, a lot of online meetings because I lose track. Because I'm just meeting with a lot of people physically. I was still mentioning it to my boss the other day that apologies if I'm missing some of these meetings, right? So you build relationships, right? That's what you need to do. And then the last is communication. Now, communication is very important because you see a lot of times where tech people is tech jargon we want to be saying, large language model, open AI, chat GPT, linear regression, neural network, and all that. We want to be saying big SQL, Tableau, Power BI, Python. You want to just be using big language. A lot of times your stakeholders don't understand all these things. So one of the things you need to invest in, and even me, I'm still investing in it, is to learn how to talk in very simple terms. Remove all the jargon and talk in simple. And guess what? I found a very, very nice way to do it too. Recently, my team and I, we did one analysis. We had to build a regression model. By the time we built the regression model, it gave us coefficients and all that. I was just thinking, how do I explain this to because the person that even gave us the work was very executive. How do I want to start saying coefficient and how do I want to weight and how would this person understand it? I just took the data, anonymized it. I just dropped it into ChatGPT. ChatGPT, I'm meeting with an executive. This is what we're trying to do. This is a sample of what the data looks like. This is the output from the model. Please give me simple terms, how I can explain this to the executive. Guess, lo and behold, ChatGPT gave me something very simple. I put it into slides. That was what I used. Thank God for ChatGPT. At least now, we can't give the excuse that, oh, I'm just a technical person. You have something that can help you. So the point I'm trying to make is you need to learn to communicate. Storytelling is very powerful. Be able to tell stories. Be able to just, walk them through. Now, what is most important to stakeholders is value. They don't care about that dashboard. They don't care about the model. They don't care about, oh, it's a chat GPT, it's GPT 4.40, it is Anthropic Claude. They don't care about those things. It's Mistral. They don't care about those things. They want the output. What is this thing? So always think about the so what. So, oh, I built a Mistral large language model. Always ask yourself, so what? Oh, so this process is now going to, instead of lasting 20 minutes, is now going to last 5 minutes. That last part is what your stakeholder wants to hear. Oh, I built a Power BI dashboard. So what? Oh, now the business is able to see the bottlenecks and the pain points of customers so that they can improve their processes. That's what they want to hear. You understand? So always ask yourself, so what? Don't just go and this is to people in data teams, and if there are data team leaders here, one of the things you need to start to learn is to how to convert your projects into valuable projects. That is a project that even though you're building something, you're able to tie it back to the value. It's very important. I find that I'm having to report to, in some cases, like I said, because of my role, MDs sometimes, executives and more senior people. And I just find that by the time they say, oh, we built, one even just harassed me the other day. I said, come, I don't want to be hearing what you built. Tell me how you've impacted my business. That's all I want to be hearing going forward. How you do it, I don't care, just do it. And it makes sense because that's really what they understand. When they are giving targets, the target is not build a model, build Power BI, write SQL. That's not their target. Their target is revenue, profit, cost. That's it. Efficiency and all that, which would eventually translate to revenue, profit, cost and profit. Top line, bottom line, simple terms, right? So you want to be able to communicate in that way. And to say that when it comes to your projects, I still just finished one recently. At the end of the day, you might do all your analysis in Python, everything. At the end of the day, PowerPoint is still a very effective, powerful tool. Many times you need to take everything you've done in Python, in Power BI and all that, and bring it into PowerPoint so that you can explain what you've done properly and the value that is had. All right, I'll stop there. I think it's 45 minutes on the dot, and I think we can take questions. Thank you very much. I hope this has been very helpful. I hope it has also been as practical as possible. I didn't want to come here to theory. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ayo.